Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third episode of Neither Here Nor There. I am Zach Simpson. I'm here with my co-host Caleb Galvez and our guest Mike
Deviney.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
it.
I'm bad with names. Anyways, I'm surprised I remember your first name.
It's fine, man. Ain't no thing.
So, what is it that you do?
Well, I have a few things I do. I mean, like for a job, I have a couple jobs. I mean, I frame houses. I've been doing that for probably about 24 years. Been doing it for a long time.
That's crazy.
And then I'm a pastor at the Maysville First United Methodist Church. I've been doing that for 8 years, and I've been doing music for forever. I've played music and been in bands and all of that good stuff for a long time, a large part of my life. So
Right.
that's me in a nutshell, right there.
So, you said you do music. What do you play?
I play. Are you talking genre or just like instrument wise?
Instrument,
like
genre?
Yeah,
All of it.
I play guitar,
Right.
and I sing. I'm the singer of our band, and we do a lot of kind of old outlaw country,
Right.
red dirt type stuff,
Right.
And that's kind of what I was raised up on. So
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a bunch of different genres of music, and everybody's like, oh, I listen to everything. I don't listen to everything, but country, my dad, he listened to a lot of Skinner, Allman Brothers,
Yeah.
all that. So, I was raised up on that,
Yep.
rap, all that. But, yeah,
See,
go
I'm
ahead.
kind of that same way.
Yeah.
I listen to all kinds of music. I like it all. To be honest with you, I struggle with rap.
Yeah.
But whenever I was listening to Derek Wade the other day, I went and I
Yeah.
listened. I
Yeah.
thought, man, I'm curious about some of his music. I'm gonna go listen
Right.
to it, and I dug it. What was the song you sent me?
Lessons, I think.
Nope, that wasn't it.
The Old Me?
No,
The old me.
Yeah.
That was what it was.
That's
Yeah.
what it was.
I dug it, man. I thought it was good. I like a good beat and I like a good rhythm.
Right.
I hate when everything is so repetitive.
Yeah,
It just
for sure.
gets lost in the song. So I don't know, man. That's just kind of me. I like all that kind of stuff, but some of that, which I heard you guys talking about this too. Some of that rap where you can't understand, or it seems like they're just saying words to rhyme.
Right. Yeah.
I can't get into that, but I love a good beat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we were talking about it last time, just watching him develop just from when he first started
It
to
was
now,
ridiculous.
he's definitely improved a lot.
now y'all grew up with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
for
Was
sure.
he like the same grade?
He
Age?
He
so-
graduated
what-
with me.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
a year older than me.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah.
Okay.
But just his progression, I was impressed.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm a really big critic of everything that I listen to or what I do, just because, I guess that's just how I am.
Well, I
But-
mean, obviously, because you never told me you liked my stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Anyway, like watching his progression, honestly, has been really impressive.
Yeah.
Because you can even tell the sound quality difference.
Right.
And then because rap should be about lyrics. All music, I think, like when it comes to that stuff, lyrics are the most important to me.
Yeah.
But with him, he tries really hard to be good with his lyrics, and just watching from square one all the way to, I don't know, he probably has 30, 40 songs maybe out. He has quite a few.
He's
Yeah.
got quite a bit. I know he has way more written than that. He just hasn't
Oh, yeah,
released
for
it.
sure.
I forgot how much he said he's written and mixed and everything, but he just hasn't released yet.
Right.
And there's a bunch he's probably just trashed. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, he used to send it to me privately before he would, put it on whatever platform, SoundCloud. But
Yeah.
each time it got better and better and better. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're working on something really hard, that's how it should be. If
Yeah.
you're not getting better at what you're doing, then you need to take a step back and say, okay, how am I not getting better and why am I not? And he works really hard. I mean, he works really hard at it. So
Yeah.
I was really impressed just with his progression.
I like listening to what you're talking about right here. That it reminds me of me like a lot. Whenever I first, I used to start whenever I first started playing guitar. I mean, I was probably sixth grade, which would be, I'm gonna tell my age here, which was
Yeah.
all the way back in like 1986, right? So way back then, I was playing. Now I was always around music because my dad always played.
Right.
But I actually picked up the guitar and started learning it. So I always just played lead guitar and I never sang because what I was
Right.
into was like that hairband
Yeah.
rock
Yeah.
and roll, and nobody can sing that stuff
Yeah.
except certain people. So I knew I could sing on key, but I never really wanted to sing that because I was afraid I would just sound stupid.
Right.
And I would have sounded extremely stupid. So I just always played lead guitar. And I tried to sing a few things, and I guess because I just played without singing for so long, I struggled with it. And anyway, with a series of events that kind of happened, I wound up starting to play and sing, and this is whenever I kind of started doing a little bit more Christian stuff. And I went and I wrote like a whole bunch of songs and Christian songs. And my dad, he went out and he bought this BR8 Boss recorder.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. You know, it was just awesome. I could do whatever I wanted to. The only problem was I didn't have like a regular drum machine. So, and I didn't have a drummer that could play. So I had to use the drum machine that was on the recorder.
Right.
It was so bad. But seriously, like whenever I finished it, I was like, those songs are amazing.
Yeah,
they are
yeah.
so good. And I remember getting asked to go out to the ag barn and play out there for like the ag show and all this stuff. So I went to the recorder and I took all the singing out of it. So I
Right.
just had all the music, and I went and I brought him a CD. It might have even been a cassette tape, and said, hey, play this and I'll sing along to it. And I did, man. I went out there and I sang to that like you wouldn't believe. And now I go back and I listen to it, and it just makes my skin crawl. It was like
Yeah.
the worst sound in
Just
the
makes you
world, man.
cringe, yeah.
Yeah, but now, I mean, like and it was kind of the same way with the middle band that I had. I used to play with a band called Rue Mood. And we went out and we played a lot of Red Dirt stuff, and we made some songs, and man, we thought we were amazing.
Right.
And now I'll go back and I'll listen to some of those songs, and I'm like, oh man, that's not who I thought
Yeah.
we was, you know. But this last album that I made with a band called Whiskey Tom, which I'm still kind of a part of, and but we've made an album with it, and I'm extremely proud of it.
Right.
We've actually had opportunities to get those played on the radio. They've been played in Tulsa and Stillwater, Ponca City,
Yeah.
Ada, and Lindsay, and
that's crazy.
and that's cool, man. I mean, that was really, really neat. I remember the first time I ever heard one of my songs played on the radio.
Right.
And I remember just pulling into this lumber store and just sitting there, just the biggest, cheesiest
Yeah.
smile on my
I
face.
imagine. I bet
So,
that was really deep.
It's cool, man. It's so neat to have a song, because
Right.
I write all of our songs, and to have a song, and now with this last band that I'm with, I'm just surrounded with amazing musicians. They're so good.
Right.
And so I can bring that idea to those guys, and just within a matter of minutes, they've got it all figured out. And when we put that album together, that Whiskey Tom album, it's just, for me, it's phenomenal. I
Right.
absolutely love it. But anyway, it was doing really, really good. We was getting, like I said, played on the radio and all of that stuff. And that's about the time that God kind of hit me and
Right.
told me that I needed to be a preacher. So
Kind of talk about your journey to being a preacher and how it kind of changed your lifestyle and the things you could or couldn't do that you did in the past, maybe.
Yeah.
Or kind of how that affected your family as well. Like, how did that play out?
Well, okay, to set up the whole thing, like I said, I've been a preacher for 8 years, and probably, I would guess, maybe about 8, my timeline's awful, but anywhere between 8 to 10 years before
Right.
that, my wife and I was going to the church I'm preaching at now, and I felt like God had called me to preach. And so I had actually talked to the pastor, who was a friend of mine, and was telling him, and he's like, man, that's awesome. And I said, well, I'm not saying I'm going to, but I feel that
Feel like you
inside.
should, yeah.
And I actually went and talked to my wife and was telling her, and she's like, no
Yeah.
way, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think she was brought up in the church like I was.
Right.
And so her idea of a preacher's wife was teach the Sunday school class
Oh,
and
yeah.
do all of this stuff. And it just made her so scared
Yeah.
and nervous. So anyway, we were just the youth pastors at the church for a while. And anyway, I would say, whatever it was, about 9 years ago, my dad was asked to set in for the preacher. My wife and we had moved, and we were at another church in another town. And my mom called me and told me my dad was going to preach, which
Right.
he'll teach a Sunday school class and all that stuff, but to
Yeah.
preach it, just
deal.
that's not him. So I was like, okay, well, we're coming down and we'll go listen to him and support him through the whole thing. And when we went down there through that service, I felt God hit me in the heart
Right.
again. And it wasn't just to preach, it was to preach at this church, because the church had really been struggling. Financially big time, and it had really taken a hit. They were selling everything just to try to keep the doors open. The pastor that they had, he had already retired once, but he had come back just to try to help the church. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about him or anybody else, but it was a hard service to sit through.
Right.
Come to find out, the pastor was in the early stages of dementia, and so he would get off track and things would just get really weird through the services. He would pick songs out that nobody knew how to play or how to sing or anything like that. So the congregation didn't want to invite anybody because they were just embarrassed, to be honest with you, through the service. And so it was just on the decline, and you just had people that had been there their whole life, and so they weren't leaving, they were just sitting through it. But so anyway, it was just getting hard. And anyway, I was sitting through Dad's service, and I felt the Lord call me again to be a preacher at that church, because the pastor was going to retire again, because he was just going to step away because it was just getting hard for him. And I thought, you know what, I'll step in, and I don't have to get paid. I already got a good job.
Yeah.
And I'll just sit in and I'll preach. And so the funny thing is I went to my wife and I said, babe, I'm telling you, God has called me to preach. And she said, then let's do it.
Right.
It's just, surprised me big time. And, but she was like, let's do it. And she said, I'm honestly tired of the playing at the bars and all of this other stuff. I want to get away from it. And I said, I agree. Because, the bar scene, it can be fun for a while, but then it can get depressing. Just like watching some people in certain areas.
Yeah.
And you actually even seeing some friends like, man, come on, Because, I went to play music, and I didn't go there for like all the drinking or the party scene. I'm not going to say I didn't, but I did. It was just, it was all about the music and the way the crowd would always respond to us and all of that stuff. That's what it was for me. And when it was time to take a break, I would go sit by my wife and just, I just kept it the way it was supposed to be. But anyway, we were just tired, and she said, let's do it. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to talk to my dad, because my dad and I actually framed houses together. We had the business together. And so we were driving to work that next day, and I said, Dad, God's called me to preach. He's called me to pastor at that church. I know he has. It was just clear as day what he wants me to do. And he said, well, then you need to go talk to the pastor about it.
Right.
And my dad's always kind of had that way of like, I hear what you're saying, but do you know how big of a commitment that is? He's always been that way with me. And I've always had to prove to him that I was, hey, I've got this. I know what it is, and I can do this. But anyway, he kind of had that little feel to him. And so anyway, I said, well, if I see the pastor at the church whenever I come home, I'll swing in and talk to him. But he was actually living in Chickasha, so very seldom did you see him at the church. But we just happened to have like a third Thursday of the month dinner where the church would put a dinner on, and people who needed a good meal could just come get a meal. And so I knew that he was going to be there. So I came early that day. First of all, I told my dad, I said, don't tell anybody about this, because I don't know what's going to happen. Because the very first time I'm like, God, I need confirmation. This is a huge deal, And I never really got it with the first calling. And then especially with my wife, like, no way, forget it. So I told Dad, I said, just don't say anything, because I want to know this is right and all that stuff. So anyway, it was 5:30. I came to the church that Thursday, and I was walking in, and my mom and another lady was in the kitchen, and they were in tears. They were just absolutely crying. And I walked in and I said, what's going on? And Mom looked at me. She said, well, there he is. Tell him. And I thought, oh, I've offended somebody. I have a way of doing that. I like to cut up, but sometimes I say the wrong things and it like offends somebody, and I don't mean to. And so I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, what's going on? And she said, Mike, God told me in a dream that you're going to be the next pastor of this church. Mm-hmm. She had no idea of anything. Yeah. And so I got goosebumps and all that stuff. And so I that was my confirmation that I'd been missing the first time, you know? And so I was raised up in the church, and I was raised up believing in God. And so God has always been the most important thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I lived for him, but I mean, he was the most important thing in my life. And so when I had this confirmation, I knew that's what I was going to do.
Right.
And the crazy thing is, like, this was right at the time the music was blowing up. Like we were getting played on the radios, like I was telling you. Mm-hmm. And it's also another one of those things where, like, we're starting to play places and people are singing my songs back to me. And it was just crazy. I mean, that's what you live for right there, is to hear a whole group of people just sitting there singing your lyrics word for word. And so I just called my guys and I said, I got to quit, man. I got to stop. I said, at least I have to quit playing in bars. I'll play family-oriented places or anything like that, because I'm not ashamed of the music. I mean, there's a couple songs that I probably wouldn't play now that I'd wrote before. A song called Wild Wild Whiskey and Women. I probably won't do that one again, you know. But, you know, it was that desire, because I've always had a desire to do what God's wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I had that confirmation, then I was in. I was 100% in. And I talked to my district superintendent of our church, of our denomination. And first of all, they don't put people in their hometown churches. That's just not the way this denomination did it. But they did, man. They put me there at our church, and been going strong for 8 years. Now, before the COVID, I mean, we would get anywhere from 60 to 90 people.
Right.
That may sound like a low number to a lot of people, but I mean, you're talking about a church who was dying. When we got there, it was like 17 to 23 every Sunday. And honestly, it's nothing special that I'm doing. I think it's just I bring an excitement and energy, and everybody is excited to invite people again. And that's all I mean, I'm not the best preacher. I'm not the best looking one to look at up there to preach. So there's nothing special about me, but I think the church was just excited about the energy that we were ready to bring and do at the church. So anyway, man, that's kind of where I've been through my ministry and all of that stuff. So
I mean, I go to your church, obviously. But,
that's right.
Or when I can, now that I work on Sundays. But when I first started going, there was maybe 15 people, maybe.
It was low numbers, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
People started inviting people. People started inviting people. And then we got to it's pretty good now. Like, it's good. And I definitely agree that he does bring a certain energy that's like, you know, you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times, like when I go to a church, or when I went to previous churches, I guess you could say, I would feel uncomfortable, because sometimes you feel maybe like they'll try to make you feel convicted, which, I mean, that's the goal, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, it gets to the point where it makes you uncomfortable, right? And so he does a very good job of saying, hey, you know, I'm preaching to you guys about this, but it's not just to you guys, it's to myself as well. And so kind of saying, hey, you know, I mess up too. Hey, this isn't just for you guys, it's for me, it's for everybody. Right. And you don't really get that with a lot of preachers, I think.
That's absolutely right. Because several times, like I remember growing up, and in our church, it was very theological. And I don't mind that, but sometimes a pastor can do it in a sense that they're just trying to show you how smart they are and how stupid you are. Yeah. And man, so I'm not above just getting up there and telling you the stupid thing I've done this week, you know, and I hope you learned something from what I've done. Now, there's a few things I've done. I think I'll probably keep those to myself. But I mean, I want people to learn. I want people to fall in love with Christ the way I had. And if there's certain things that I've lived through that maybe could help somebody else, there's absolutely no way I would keep that to myself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I know a lot of pastors, they'll stand way up high at that pulpit. And it's just funny the way they stand up there and they try to talk so smart and intelligent and look down at you, you know?
Right.
So,
I
man,
can't stand that,
that's why I've just taken a little movable podium and a little microphone just right down there in the front pew. And I preach from there.
Yeah.
I tried the podium for a while whenever I first started, and I preached up there for a while, and then I was asked to go like preach at some revivals and stuff like that. And my son Zane one day, he goes, "Man, you just preach different at the revivals."
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't know, you just have a lot more passion, a lot more heart in what you're saying." And I said, "It's funny, son, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I feel it." And I said, "You know what I think it is?" He said, "What?" I said, "At a revival, I get out and I talk. I walk and I talk to the people. Here at the church, I've always seen the preachers just stand at the podium,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm doing. I've got to stop. I got to get." And it honestly, it changed everything. It's more engaging. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? When I'm talking, I'm looking at everybody, and it just feels like we're all paying attention to
Yeah.
each other. And so, yeah, man, it makes a huge difference. But there's a lot of preachers that, in all honesty, I don't feel like they're there to win your soul. They just want you to hear them sound good. And that's a shame with a lot of churches.
You think being behind that podium kind of gives people a sense of power? And they're really, like you were saying, they were just up there so people could hear them talk rather than
Yeah.
actually preaching what they're supposed to be preaching about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's funny because whenever I first started going, which was, when I started preaching, which was back
Right.
in 2012, I had to go to a licensing school. Mm-hmm. And I had to go to it for like 2 weeks just to, just kind of get certified for weddings and just other little things, just through our denomination to be able to do communion and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's funny because in a class, they told you, now you wouldn't think, well, maybe you would think this, I don't know. But they very clearly said, be careful not to get caught up in somebody's lack of love.
Yeah.
And turning to you, because they think maybe you have all the answers, and you
Right.
have to be careful not to fall in a bad situation. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because I remember going back in that week. I'm not saying anything was there, but there was just a situation that just felt like this is what he's talking about.
Right.
Just be careful. But there's a lot of people hurting out there, and there's a lot of people who need, that moment, just an ear sometimes. And so, it's a crazy thing, but at the same time, there are different things that pastors can get caught up in, whether it's a power trip, like you
Right.
said, or maybe just, a wandering eye from somebody, or somebody
Yeah.
that just needs
Yeah. somebody
to show love and kindness to them. And that can be misleading for some people. So, and for some pastors, they fall into it too. So, that's one of those things.
I was kind of thinking about what you said because, I've taken a speech class, standing behind the podium and talking, and all those. It's honestly, when you're moving around and talking, it feels like it's a lot more productive in
Yeah.
a way. Like standing behind the podium, if you listen, my only experience is in speech class, so I
Yeah.
can't speak a lot of actual, I guess, in-depth experience, but I know for me, for example, I'm a lot more comfortable when I'm moving around. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's just flowing easier. I can think easier. And when I'm sitting there and I can't move and I'm stuck behind the podium, I just can't think. And I'll freeze over. Did I say that right? Or did I say that okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
It's to me like what you're kind of talking about here is, for me, when I was behind the podium, it felt scripted.
yeah,
You know what I
can
mean?
see that too.
And I've gotten bad about, my dad will ask me to come play music with him every once in a while, and I've just got comfortable with just having lyrics right here on a sheet of paper, and
Yeah.
it's just there just to make sure I don't mess up.
Right.
I mess up more because the lyrics are there, because I'll look over and I'm trying to find my spots and all of this stuff, and so I mess up more. And it's the same way with preaching. You start stumbling and all that stuff, looking down for your words. But if I'm down front and I'm just talking, moving like you're talking about, it flows. It's more natural, and it's more me, freestyle almost.
Yeah.
Not that you want to freestyle, but what
I
I'm
get what you
saying.
mean.
It just, a lot more comes from it than standing behind the pulpit and just almost feeling like you're reading a script.
Yeah.
Because that to me, that's stale.
And it keeps the audience engaged
Right.
when
Yeah.
they move, right? Like if I'm just sitting there listening to somebody that's not moving and just going and going, it's not as, I guess, entertaining, I guess you could say. But if
Yeah.
I'm listening to somebody that's moving live, got action, you know what I mean? You pay more attention that way. So
Do you get nervous? Do you get nervous standing in front of people?
I get nervous before I do it. And
Yeah.
then once I'm up there and once I'm going, I have
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
It's just
Takes
What
a
about you?
minute.
Do you get in front of anybody?
Last time I got up in. There's a big man on campus event
Yeah.
because I graduated from ECU,
Yeah.
and it's for one of the Greek organizations, Zeta. They host it for philanthropy for breast cancer, and it's basically like a male pageant. So you get up there and you do like a sexy leg or whatever, and then you do a talent, which I had a buddy of mine. He plays piano and a bunch of other instruments, and I sing Frank Sinatra, "Wee Small Hours of the Morning," and at first getting up there in front of people, you're like, oh man. But when once you're up there, which the mic was just right there. I like to move around and talk with my hands. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've noticed, but yeah. At first, I was really nervous, but once
you
I'm
have
up
to keep
there,
slapping your hand off of me.
I
Stop
know,
it, man.
yeah. Once I get up there, I'm fine. But
I was in 8th grade, man, and I remember this like very clearly. Like I was in 8th grade, and you know how people love or hate to stand up in front of people and give a book report, and that's what was happening. And I was nervous about it because, well, I mean, I always tried to be macho and not
Right.
mess up in high school. Thought I had a reputation and all that stuff. And if I did something, I didn't want people to laugh or to be stupid. And so
Right.
I was nervous about getting up there. And it was crazy, man. I got up there and I gave my speech and I messed up a couple times. And I went and I sat down and I just noticed that nobody was paying attention. Mm-hmm. And I just started thinking, I'm making a big deal out of this.
Right.
It's not a big, so what if you mess up, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember that so clear that's exactly how I go into so many things. Well, it's not even an issue anymore. I'm just, I don't have a problem with getting in front of people anymore.
Right.
And, but I remember that being one of the things that just told me, man, just chill out. It ain't no thing. And so yeah, and I mean that's helped me through a lot. And I mess up like you wouldn't believe. If I'm up on stage and I'm singing a song and I completely forget the words, I just kind of chuckle and move
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
nobody cares, man. And matter of fact, they almost expect it from me anymore,
Yeah.
just to mess up. But it's no thing. And it's funny how people can get so clamored up on something like that. If they're standing in a group of 10 people and it's people they knew their whole life, they will sit down in a conversation like we are. No problem whatsoever. But if you ask them to stand up and say something or read something, it just freaks them out. And it's crazy how that's just one of those things that just gets people all nervous and sweaty and all that stuff. But
Yeah, Devin gets kind of nervous too. Her chest gets all red and her face gets red and she gets nervous. I'm just comfortable like talking to people, I guess. And
Yeah.
so if it's something I'm not knowledgeable about, that's a little bit different. Of course, I'd get nervous then. But if it's something I've looked over a million times, I prepared for it, then I'm not bad at all about it.
right.
Devin, there's a story with that, like you're talking about her getting in front of people. I told you guys, I grew up in the church, and I've always loved the Lord and all that stuff. But there was a time, like whenever I actually gave my life to the Lord, and there was a relationship. It wasn't just I know who He is and I believe in Him. It was
Right.
It was the actual moment I had a relationship. I grew up in the Methodist church, like I told you guys, and it was so traditional and just so. I hate saying this. It was just stale, and there was
Yeah.
like no life to it whatsoever. But I found myself asking my uncle about this church he was going to over at Paul's Valley, like every Monday and every Thursday, every day after their services. Hey, what'd your pastor talk about? What'd your pastor talk about?
Right.
And he would tell me these things, and I was just, he wasn't telling me nothing I hadn't heard. I'd heard all these things, but for some reason, it was just doing something to my spirit, which now I can look back and just know the Holy Spirit was just prompting me for something. And one day, my uncle just finally said, Mike, just come. Just come to church and listen to him for yourself.
Got
And
tired of you
he
asking, huh?
did, I guess so. And or he realized he had to start paying attention. I don't know what it was. But anyway, so I went to church. Now, this church was radical in the sense of they were doing things I believed in, but I'd never experienced. The
Yeah.
speaking in tongues and the
Yeah.
prophesying and stuff like that. I believe that stuff because the Bible talks about it, but I'd never been around it. Anyway, this was weird, man. At the very end of the service, he was walking around and he was saying stuff to people. And then he came to me and he said, I don't know you from anything, do I? This is the first time I've ever seen you. And I said, yeah, that's right. And he said, well, God is doing something right now to me. He's showing me something about you just to make you realize this is real. And I said, okay. And he said, God is letting me see the inside of your house right now. He said, now, I don't know you, right? I've never met you. And I said, no. And he said, okay, here's the thing. I'm walking up your steps. I see your door is facing south, and it's kind of on the north side of the house. I'm walking in, and he started telling me where my furniture was. It was crazy. It was weird. Yeah, no and way. he goes around the living room, and he says, okay, now over in this corner, what is that? Is that an amplifier? And I said, yes, I've got an amplifier exactly where he told me it was. And he said, okay, and if you go down that wall, that's a wall heater. Nailed it. I mean, he hit it like perfect.
Yeah.
And then he went into the living room and he goes, to the kitchen. I'm sorry. He went into the kitchen. He goes, oh my gosh, that is an orange countertop. And it was, dude. It was the brightest orange you had ever seen. It was ugly. We rented the house. I mean, I would have never picked it out for myself. And then he started telling me about that. And then he started telling me where my whiskey bottles were and all of that stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're probably going to want to get rid of those, you know. But it was crazy, man. He told me all this stuff. And then he went on and he said, all right, do you have a son? Or do you have a daughter? And I was like, nope, I don't have a daughter. I got a son.
But you were like, yeah.
So immediately now all of these great things he had just told me to prove that God was telling. He couldn't have done that without God. You know what I'm saying? Because that was phenomenal what he had done. And then he comes in and he says, you know, you have a daughter. And I was like, no. And I'm thinking, all those things he just did, now you've lost me, you know, because I'm a skeptic on this. I believe in it, but I don't trust people. I don't trust people sometimes.
Right.
And so he said, well, you're going to have a daughter. And I was like, okay, I can go with that, you know. And he said, I see your daughter standing on a stage in front of a lot of people singing and leading worship. And I was like, he said, it's like a football stadium. It's like a baseball stadium. He said, I can't figure out exactly what it is, but she's leading worship in front of all those people. Devin is 20 years old, and I still can't get her to do. And I'm not trying to get her, but I've presented her with opportunities. Yeah. Now, Devin's a good singer.
Yeah.
She's a very good singer.
Yeah.
And she hasn't done that yet, and I know it's got to come true. I mean, because everything he did that night was just like insane. Right on the money.
Yeah.
So, but she's one of those people that just gets so nervous.
Right.
And last year we had that big youth rally that we put together, and I tried to get her to come sing with me, and it would have been set up the way I would imagine this pastor was talking about, standing there in front of all these people singing and all that stuff. So I haven't gave up on her yet because I'm still trying, man, to do that kind of stuff. But
she told me afterwards she was really disappointed in herself because she really wants to. She just, she gets nervous, you know what I mean? And I understand it, but the way I think about things is you can't get over a fear, or you can't get over not doing something until you do it. You know what I mean? You put yourself in the position, and then you're like, oh, okay, I did it, so it's no longer a fear to me.
Yeah,
and
I'm afraid of snakes, so I should just start playing with snakes. Yeah, I don't think so.
See, people are going to make fun of me for this. I used to hate swimming. Absolutely hate swimming. I'm not kidding. Like, I used to hate it. You know what I mean? And, like, every little kid gets scared they're going to drown. And so I just never cared to learn how to swim. Right. I never cared about it.
Is that why you didn't want to go on the cruise with us?
Hey, I did. Remember we went snorkeling. Yeah. That was fun. But anyway, it just freaked me out.
Right.
And I finally just said, well, it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
It's the only way I'm gonna be able to do it. So I just learned how to swim. But dude, it used to freak me out, and I didn't learn how to do it, and I didn't get over it until I did it.
Right.
So just not being able to do something, the only way you're probably going to be able to do it is if you do it. If you at least try. If you try and fail, that's okay. But if you at least give it the effort, that's worth something. You know? It's a mental battle you win.
See, and like I've tried to get Devin just to get her a little bit more comfortable with everything, just to come to church, do a little special with me, just sing backups. I mean, she don't even have to do all the leads or anything. Just, get behind me, let me shine a little bit. But and this is the same thing I was talking about people a minute ago. This is a church that she grew up in, and she knows these people.
Yeah.
They know her, and they would never laugh at her or make fun of her. And if there's an environment for her to sing at to get comfortable, this is it. But she just can't do it. She just gets nervous, man. And she does great, man. She's a really good singer. I enjoy singing with her, but just can't get her to get over that little spot, man.
I don't know how I got up there and did that big man on campus thing. I guess my girlfriend really.
I was surprised you did that.
My girlfriend really pushed me to do it because she was in Zeta, and it's like, well, it's for a good cause, it'll be
can't
fun.
believe you did that.
And because I was resident assistant ECU, and all my coworkers were like, oh no, we'll come and support you,
Yeah.
I bet that made it worse. I would have been like,
no, it was actually helped, and it was like we transitioned from Frank Sinatra to Country Roads.
Yeah.
And it was, and like everybody started joining in, and it was a lot of fun, and it's a different feeling getting up there and I guess performing in front of people. I wasn't playing an instrument, but I mean I can barely play guitar, so
I did that. So I did Country Roads over at the Pauls Valley Opry. I go over there and sing, and I did that song over there one time, and it turned out really good. That was fun.
Yeah. It's always a fun little song.
Yeah.
We were practicing for it, and man, there was this one note I could not hit, and it was just so frustrating. And then I left, and I was like just singing it, and I got it.
Yeah.
Enoch, my buddy that was playing piano, he looked at me. He was like, "Are you kidding me? We spent like 2 hours in there, and you." But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
See, I know both of you guys. Y'all are involved with music in some way. Like you can play an instrument, and of course you have your band and instrument. You can sing, you can do all these other things. And so, I've never been engulfed in music. I just listen to it. You know what I mean? But I'm a critic of music, so I care about music in a way like that. But I don't know if I could ever play an instrument. I just don't know if I could. The only thing I could see myself doing is piano. I don't know if I could do anything other.
What about drums? Could you do drums?
I don't.
Because we need a drummer at the church. You go. Boom,
I don't think I could.
It's just all a mental thing.
That's right.
It
really is. I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of capabilities. Now, maybe you aren't blessed with just amazing talent, but I mean, I think you could do a little bit of whatever. But it's discipline. I mean, it's a matter of what you want to do. Like whenever I knew I wanted to play music and basketball. Like I remember that from growing up in school. Those were the two things that just consumed every part of me.
Right.
When I wasn't outside playing basketball, shooting, or doing whatever, I was always in my room just playing guitar and learning. And man, I've spent countless hours. And now I sit here and I think, man, I'm 46 years old. I can't learn anything. But I don't devote my time like I used to. And if I did that, it's kind of like speaking Spanish. I wish I could speak Spanish. And in high school, I took it for 2 years, and I did pretty good. I don't remember much of it anymore. And I'm like, I just can't retain that information. But I don't try like I used to. And if you took me to Mexico and dropped me off, I'm going to learn it pretty quick, But I think it's one of those things, being able to devote yourself. But we all get busy and tied up with different things that it's not. I mean, I didn't have nothing else to do but play guitar. And basketball. So I mean, that's just what I did.
Yeah.
See, that's what I've started to realize. Like as a kid, you may be more intelligent as an adult, but as a kid, that's whenever you're learning and your devotion stuff really kicks in, right? So
soak up everything. There
There was a point in time I just started really caring about fishing. So I would fish every single day, and I'd do it for like 5 months straight. And then it turned into like an everyday, and it turned to an everyday thing, right? And then I just got pretty good at fishing.
Yeah.
And then it would be something like basketball. I really cared about basketball, so I'd play 2 hours a day. And then it just, as a kid, it's really important to develop those habits, I think, to where you get addicted to things, because that's what it is for me, is an addiction.
Yeah.
I turn everything to an addiction, and not in a bad way, but like trying to get good at something, I turn that to an addiction. And so kind of just forming that as a kid, when you transition to an adult, you're a lot better off versus like, I may be good at it today, and then, I don't really care anymore. Because I know a lot of people that are like that. They're like, I care about it right now, but then a couple of days from now, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And so I just, I figured out for me, and then seeing other people and the way they do things, that it's more beneficial to form that addictive habit of being good at things now, or at least trying to be good at things.
But you know what? Like, something too, though, like growing up and in school and all that stuff, it helps to have someone that pushes you.
That's true.
Like,
too, yeah.
and you can spot a good teacher who don't take the crap that you.
Yeah.
I mean, like we used to know the teachers you could just shoot the bull with that would let you go like, well, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me teach you. And another teacher would be like, no, I know you understand what's going on, and I expect you to get your work done. And those are the ones that helped me, like through my college years. Did y'all have Paul Pratt as a music teacher? I know he went to Elmore for a while, but I don't know if he was with you when y'all were there.
I wasn't in band, but he was at Elmore for band.
He's one of those guys that he demands you do better.
Yeah,
and so you do better. Right. I mean, I get tired because I hear a lot from our schools or whatever. Well, we're small. We don't have the people or the kids to pick from. It's like, man, you're no smaller than what we were when I was in school.
Yeah.
And we were just expected to do better.
Right.
And I just think when you have that caliber of teacher that can push you and knows you can do it, just like if you would have learned music or guitar in grade school, and if you had a teacher that's like, no, Caleb, that ain't going to work. You're going to do better, and you're going to do better the next time you show up, or else whatever, But I mean, those are the teachers that pull the best out of you. And I just wish that we had a lot more of that around, and I'm not just saying Maysville, but just in general, different places, just to expect, because I think we can all do things, maybe we're just, like I said a minute ago, we're not just oozing talent, but we could do something better.
Than what,
Instead of just, man, well, I guess you don't have it. It's like, no, you're going to do it. You can do it.
See, I got lucky because my dad, he's kind of like a perfectionist about everything he does. He'll try to be the best at everything he does. Really competitive.
Yeah.
And so when you talked about having somebody push you, that's, even though he would do it in extreme ways, he would always push me and push me. Like we were talking earlier, I was talking to Zach about this and Cody. My dad, like when I was a kid, when he was trying to get me to be good at like baseball or whatever, he, one time, I'd played a game at Washington or wherever it may have been, and his motivation wasn't like, we're going to be soft, right? He would try to like make me mentally tough. And so let's say I went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles and hit 500. That's really good. He would then say, I didn't drive all the way to Washington to watch you strike out. And it was just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it would piss me off.
Yeah.
But if I didn't want him to like push me like that or get under my skin, I had to do better.
You focused a little bit more or whatever.
I didn't have a choice. It was either have a long car ride home of getting my ass chewed out continuously, or it was, hey, you did good today. Yeah. And it was just one of those things. And so he's pushed me and pushed me.
See, I didn't have that. Like my dad drove a semi truck cross country for 17 years, which was mostly through my whole growing up.
Yeah.
And so it was always like, hey, if you like it, go do it, however it is. Now, and my mom would come and she would support, but they didn't care what I did. I didn't have to do anything. Nobody asked me to. But I was one of those people that, I don't want to say I was competitive, but it was more a self thing. I wanted to do good in everything. And then, we had a coach. I don't know if you guys know John Jacobs or not, but he was my coach. He was like my grade school summer league baseball coach. And that's another one of those people I'm talking about. He demanded you do better.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, you do not let that ball go by you. You get in front of it. If it hits you in the chest, then you go grab the ball, you knock it down, get the ball, go tag him out, and then you can cry.
Yeah.
But make the play first. And then he was my coach all through high school too, in basketball and football. And he pushed me to do. I had a self-desire, but he pushed me to do better too. And I was like, I'll talk to my son about basketball. He's like, was you good at basketball? And I was like, well, I wasn't the most talented. I was good by Maysville standards, but it was more of just I was smart. I knew
Yeah.
I knew the game more than I was good at the game.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, there was like I was good at dribbling and passing the ball, and I could shoot, but there were a lot better shooters than
Yeah.
me. So, you know, it's just one of those things. I knew my part, and I did the best I could with
Yeah.
it. But
We like thinking about it. The people that are usually the most successful are so obsessed with success that with being either number one or winning or whatever it is, like you think like Michael Jordan or
Right.
Kobe Bryant or those guys are absolutely obsessed.
yeah,
They're the most successful.
Mm.
And so I'm not going to say like I'm just so obsessed with it, but I am very obsessed with trying to become successful, or at least giving everything I have to become successful. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so whatever I can do, I'm going to do it. And so at the end of the day, I don't sit here and think, I could have done more. I could have done more. I'm obsessed with becoming the best that I could possibly be.
Right.
And so I'm not going to say like I've surrounded myself with people that are way, because not everybody that I know is that way.
yeah,
But a good example of somebody that really demanded that was Coach Cornforth, our basketball coach. He demanded it.
yeah.
If you at least went out there and did everything you could and then failed, that was fine.
So be it, right? Yeah,
Yeah, but if you didn't, or he saw something that you did that maybe you shouldn't have done, and you know in your head, like, that was a stupid mistake, he was going to let you know about it. And
Yeah.
so Coach Terrell was the same way. He demanded success, and those people that demand the success are the people that are successful.
Yeah.
A lot of people are too soft now, especially you see it because I umpired Little League sports, and I've ref Little League sports, and people are soft, man. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
As long as you try, you get a trophy. As long as you try, you get a ribbon, And I
Yeah.
cannot stand
Oh,
that.
yeah. That's what, like, my kids were growing up. We'd go out and play basketball, and my wife's like, "Are you seriously going to play that hard against them?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"You dang right. This
Yeah.
is my house."
Yes, dude. I will.
And- But
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't doing it to be mean. I was just trying to get him to try harder
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to do a little bit more, But I don't know. It's one of those things.
I'm really
man.
good at picking. Like at Devin, I'm good at picking at her to get her pissed off.
Yeah.
And she'll get tired of hearing me, but she'll do what I'm trying to get her to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever she's trying to succeed in, I'm always in her ear picking at her. And I guess that's just kind of like my dad was that way. Just pick at me, pick at me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I don't know, maybe I just inherited that, just seen it and started doing it. But it works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get Devin, I'll get in her ear like, hey, 30 minutes, study, 30 minutes, study, 30 minutes, do this. And she's like, I know. And I'll just keep saying, well, I'm just going to keep pushing until you do it. And then she'll do it. And
Yeah.
then it just works out good. Like, I don't have kids yet, obviously. But when I have a kid, I'm going to demand respect in such a way, not just respect, but success as well, that they're going to understand what it means. And I'm not going to go to an extreme or beat my, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
not going to do all that, but they will understand the demand for success.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm really going to push forward to, because if you don't, and you let everybody get engulfed in this participation trophy or these ribbons, or like, oh, you did good, so here you go. That ain't going to work for me.
Right.
We're going to get it, we're going to throw it in the trash, and we're going to say that's not first place.
Well, there's a lot that comes with hard work.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not just that you're successful, but it does something for you inside.
Yeah.
The
That's
sense
a
of
good point, too.
accomplishment and all
Yeah.
that goes along with it.
Yeah.
I've got, like, that's the way I was growing up. I always wanted to be the best, or at least really good at whatever I did. My philosophy was, if you can do it, I can do it. There's just,
Yeah,
the only thing you got above me is you can dunk a basketball and I can't. But I had that mentality, and now it's like I've chilled so much.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I love writing music. I love putting out songs and all that stuff. And I can even do a song that I think is really, really good. And I want to go in there. And actually, Derek from the podcast made me think about this. He says, I'm going to put out a song every week, like every Friday. And I'm sitting here thinking, dude, I got songs I could do the exact same thing. But I don't know. I don't know why I
Yeah.
don't. It's just I've gotten content
His
Yeah.
persistence
with it,
is crazy.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I want this to happen. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's sad, man, because I've got a desire, but now, you just go out and you work hard all day and you come home and
Yeah.
you're tired and you've just kind of let yourself settle. And music is a dream of mine. It's always been a dream of mine. I've got a passion for it. I got friends that have been phenomenal musicians that said they love it, and they just don't. One day they're just like, yeah, I think I'm through, and I don't have any desire to be through, because I love it, but I wish I could make myself get all of that going. I've got enough songs for another album that I think would be great. I just can't get myself going in that direction, and I wish I could get motivated like that again, like I used to have when I was younger. So, and it's just a matter of just trying to tap into it and telling asking yourself, well, I mean, you want to do it so bad, just do it. Because I know once I got up and I went and I started doing it, I would be there all night long. Just just sitting there,
it's just the motivation,
loving it.
Doing it.
So I mean, I hope it doesn't fall away for other people, but I mean, it's one of those things you have to work on. For sure.
I get so scared of. I don't get scared. I'm comfortable with failure, but I'm so scared of getting knocked off my path that it's going to delay what I could do, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I have it now, but I get anxiety, kind of like OCD at the same time. So if I'm doing something, it has to be exactly how I want it done, right when I want it done, and it needs to be done the way I should do it. And if it's not done that way, I'll stay up worrying about it or getting it done until it's done, right?
Yeah.
And something that was really bad with me is to have anxiety in high school about doing things, whether it's sports or whether it's not really schoolwork, but just anything outside of that. And I figured out the best way for me to combat that was, okay, you don't want to worry about it, just do it.
Yeah.
Just it doesn't matter if you spend 2 hours doing it, you got to worry about it, you're getting it done, And so now, not so much anymore. My life's gotten a lot easier because I only work 2 days a week at the distribution center. But before, whenever I was always doing stuff, I was great on 6 hours of sleep. I'd wake up, 6 hours of sleep, get everything done I needed to get done until it was done how it needed to be done. And then I could be comfortable for a little bit and then sleep. But I get uncomfortable. And until things are done the way I want it done, I cannot be comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I know now that being married, there's a lot more than just me that I got to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
And so with Devin, I don't want to with me being, or if I got lazy or something like that, I don't want that to ruin what could maybe be done for Devin in a sense, or my kids or anything like that. So I just go and go and go until I just can't do it no more. Then I'll sleep, and then I just go and go and go. I just got comfortable. I wouldn't say I'm just an amazing worker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I try to work as hard as I can at least.
Well, and time is one of those things that can get you. And that I guess that's more than anything what I was talking about a minute ago with not losing interest or just being too lazy to do it. It's I go to work, and when I get home,
You're tired.
I'm tired, but a lot of times I also have church stuff to do, maybe a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday stuff going on.
Right.
And then now you I don't know, something about my recliner tells me I'm relaxing. You know what I mean? And I'm getting the rest that I need. But it also gives me time to talk to my wife there a little bit, sit down and chill. If I do my music, I'm just going to go back in there and shut the door, and because I need silence, and you know what I'm saying. So I don't know. I mean, it's not really a sense of being lazy with that. It's just God, I need another 8 hours, of the day, and it would just give you so much more time to do. The passions that I have aren't easily to do as much as they used to be.
Yeah.
And it gets hard.
I for sure get that, because there's things that I did in high school that I would love to do again, but I don't.
But
have the time.
you got responsibilities too. I mean, you got things
sure.
that just oversee that. So it's life, and it's just how it is.
Yeah. Then
But those passions and those they're so important to have. Otherwise, I mean, life can just get so stale and
Get boring
depressing.
and
Really and truly depressing. If I thought all I had to do was get up and go to work and come home, and that's it, that's just depressing. I mean, I don't want to get up in the mornings, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I don't want to just go to work and come home.
Yeah.
And just sit around and not do anything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you got to have those things, man. They're so good to have, hobbies or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which music is more than a hobby to me, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could be golf or just whatever for people. Not really golf for you. You've golfed with me.
We talked about that earlier. I got a long ways to go before I get anywhere close.
Oh, you got baseball in your system, man. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that. But something that keeps me going, or that will keep me motivated at least, is just goals, right? Like I set I set goals that I don't even know if are achievable or not, but I at least dream to try to get it done.
Yeah.
And so trying to achieve those goals just keeps me going, just keeps me
Yeah.
motivated, doesn't let me get tired of doing what I'm doing. Now, when I achieve those things, I'm just going to keep making up more things to do, but
Yeah.
I set so many goals and I just try to achieve them. If I can't, oh well, but at least I tried.
But you got to try. I mean, it's like it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. You don't have a goal. Don't have a goal like that, because those never work.
Yeah, they never do.
It's got to come from somewhere deep inside that you really want to do it and you really want to change. And I guess a lot of people with their New Year's resolutions want to do these things, but it has to be real. It has to be a passion, to want to do. So, if you have a goal, you really need to do everything you can to try to reach
achieve
that.
it, yeah.
I've been told that with church. Get a church goal. Where do you want to be? And how do you get there? Make a plan. Stick with it, man. Try to really, really drive at getting this done. And I hear so many people say you'd be surprised at what you accomplish if you would really just go for it,
Is there any goals that you maybe haven't achieved that you've set for being a preacher or being in church that you want to get done?
Well, my goal, and I know this may sound like the wrong way to say it, but I wish I could build the church up to a point where I could be a full-time pastor.
Yeah.
Not just, I would love to get away from the framing. I've been doing that for 25 years, but that's not why I want to do it. I feel I could be so much more effective as a pastor. There's so many more duties that I could do that I had time for, a lot more visiting, a lot more talking and ministering to people outside the church walls. I would love to be able to get that, but it's hard to talk to people about. I can't make somebody get on fire for God.
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good point.
I can try to do the best. I feel like I've had some really good sermons where when I was done, it's like, now that got him.
Yeah.
And it's no different the next Sunday, or you know what I mean? And it's a constant battle to try to really reach people. And I wish people could find the love for Christ that I feel like I have.
Yeah.
Because my life right now and the way I feel I'm living is I'm really trying to live for Him. I'm really trying to focus on Him and do things for Him. I would say, I know this probably is a stupid thing to say, but I feel like my sin's been cut in half because I'm trying to do better, and I'm focusing on that better, and I've preached this several times from the pulpit. Like, when you get ready to sin, you know what you're fixing to do.
Yeah.
Just make the right choice, and that's, it's really and truly, it's simple as that, because most of the time, we don't hardly ever stumble into sin.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what we're fixing to do, and we make that choice.
Right.
And so my life's been better because I'm making better choices, because my focus is a lot more on Christ than on me and being selfish. And that's what I'm trying to preach. I'm trying to reach people in a sense like that, where they realize they need to focus on Christ a lot more in their life. And it's when you've given your life to Christ, then you should be trying to live that way as well. So and this whole COVID thing, it has knocked a lot of people out of church.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say they're just scared of it, but yet you see them running around on Facebook at all these places. And so they're just not coming back to church because they're just settled into
kind of sitting at home or being lazy in a sense.
And so I can look at that and just say, well, I got some more work to do. And you know what I mean? So it's just a constant thing. And I'm not by no means putting anybody down, because a lot of times if I hadn't been the pastor and had to be there preaching that Sunday, I probably would have been somewhere else doing something that I wanted to do. Maybe not every Sunday going and doing other things, but I wouldn't be as attended as what I am every Sunday, So I don't want to put anybody down, and I don't want to judge anybody for that, but I do want to try to help them find what I feel like I've found.
Yeah.
So I don't like judging people or condemning people, because I get it. I totally get it. I just want them to find what I've found. So that's it.
My biggest issue, especially with people now, is especially mainly when it comes to religion, just in our religion in a sense, is that people want to do what looks good when they're in front of everybody else, but when they're in a position to where it's outside of that, like, listen, I'll tell you this, just to be completely honest, before, let's say if I saw a homeless person, that wasn't any of my business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had a guy come to the store I used to work at. He was homeless. Nobody did anything for him. And he didn't have any shoes. I had no shoes on. And immediately I felt awful. I said, all right, I'll buy you a pair of shoes. So I bought him a pair of shoes. And I took the selfishness out of my own, and I'm still selfish in some ways. Everybody's selfish in a sense. But I try to take the selfishness out of my life. And I noticed whenever I tried to do that, I noticed the people around me were more selfish. You kind of see what people do. When you take something out of your life, you see just how much somebody else does it. You know what I mean? Yep. And so my biggest issue now is you see it on Facebook, you see it all over social media, you see it in person. If it doesn't fit what they want it to fit, whether it's their political ideologies or whether it's, you know, what they may be taught when they were growing up, they don't care about their religion anymore.
Yeah.
If somebody's not a Republican and they're a Democrat, the Republican will look at them, quit caring about their religion, and belittle them and be mean to them and talk down to them. And it gets ridiculous. You know what I mean? And so
Christians are that way a lot too.
That's what I'm saying.
That's just ridiculous.
It's exactly what I'm trying to say is that you see, especially within our religion, that people don't care about being religious unless it's time to be religious.
Yeah.
They don't want to take through what they're supposed to be doing or take care of what they're supposed to do, whether it's their ethics or their morals. They just want to do what they want to do. And then when it's time to be religious on a Sunday or a Wednesday or when somebody asks them about it, then they'll do it. You know what I mean? But in their own time, at least from the people that I've experienced, they don't care about it anymore. You know what I mean?
I've had people come to our church and say that they've been to other churches, and as soon as you walk in, they can see them check you out from head to toe and then back again, you know, and they've already they've sized you up before you even make it in. And they said that's what they love about our church is it was just nobody's looking at you bad. Now, that has nothing to do with me. That's just the congregation. That's just the people in our church that are just that way, you know. They just, well, that's what I'm proud of is we try to just love people. And, you know, nobody's better than anybody else. And man, if we could just live that way, there would be no Black Lives Matter. There'd be nothing like that because everything would just be us trying to love one another. Yeah. And everybody's equal. And, you know, so we just need more of that. And that's exactly what the Bible tells us to do anyway, is just love your neighbor, man. Just it's hard because some of us have bad neighbors. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where you just got to do the best that you can to put a smile on and show them love. Because a lot of times people who are mean or hateful or lash out, they got a lot of problems in their lives. Whatever's bringing them misery, they find comfort in taking it out on other people, or they find comfort into putting other people down to make them feel better, to think their lives are better than what they are. So, you know, a lot of times just love and compassion towards those people can help minister to them more than anything. And so I think Jesus was pretty wise in his words when he's just telling us to love people. Right. You know, it's good for our soul and it's good for their soul as well.
I feel like a lot of people pick and I feel like a lot of people pick and choose what they want to believe out of the Bible instead of just. I mean, everybody's probably been guilty of it, but I feel like it's one of the biggest problems. And then, you know, there's some churches that it gets too political because you know I'm not dogging on churches or anything, but you know they get too worried about, too wrapped up in where the money's going and stuff like that, and it just gets too political and. It kind of brings unneeded stress to the church, you know, but I mean, I've never been put in a position of keeping a church going or anything. So I haven't been in those shoes. So it's like, I can't really say anything.
Well, I'm blessed that we haven't had those kind of problems at our church. I mean, because we're all just focusing on the church and Christ. We're not focusing on our little groups in the church that are really easy to develop in a church. And we try not to do that. I mean, we really try to just include everybody. But, man, you do get people who – and this isn't just small churches, this big churches. There's feel-good preachers that just want to preach nothing but the good stuff. And, man, everything about Christ is good. But there's also certain things demanded of us in ways that we live. And when we can live those ways pleasing to God, I mean – sin is sin. I mean, y'all kind of touched on that a little bit. There's varieties of sins, but the ultimate thing is it's all sin, and we're all expected to live better. You know, and yes, we're forgiven, but just because we're forgiven doesn't mean that there's not a standard of living, and there's not a way to show honor and love and devotion to Christ than to live the way he wants you to live.
Right.
And a lot of Christians really, really lose track of that. You know, the Bible talks about, I didn't mean to come preach to you guys on your podcast, but the Bible talks about, like, when Christ comes back again, whether there's two people in the field and one of them disappears, basically goes to be with Christ. There's 10 virgins and 5 of them are ready and 5 of them aren't ready, you know? And there's these scenarios in the Bible, and if you look at that, it's showing that 50% of the Christians are all it is that's really, truly ready for God. And I think that's a pretty good, fair assessment of because you guys know this. You go to a church and you see people that you know are talking trash about people. You see people at the church that you know aren't living the way Christ wants them to live. You know people in that church that may have went out and committed adultery. You know what I'm saying? We know people that don't live that way. And if you look at the Bible and what it says, it's like, hey, when I come back, there's only going to be about half of you Christians that are really ready for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's because of this whole hypocritical Christian stuff. They size you up. They look at you. They've already got you figured out before you even walk in. You're already not good enough to be in that church,
Yeah.
you know? And so
it happens.
And
yeah.
it's a shame because it's in every single church.
And do you
That's just
think
how it is.
It could be because from a worldly view, we see every sin differently. You know, killing's worse than lying to someone or cheating on someone. And then say somebody who's just lied to people looks at somebody who's cheated on their wife. They're like, well, they're a little worse than me. It's like, well, no, you're a sinner just like him.
Yeah.
We like to think some sin is small only because it's convenient to us and we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But all sin is, worth death. It's all dishonorable to God,
Right.
And so whether you think it's a small sin or a big sin, it's sin to God.
Right.
And, that's one of those things where we all have to do better. And even working on the smallest stuff all the way, to the big. I don't feel like I have to worry about murder. I think I'm going to be okay on that. You know what I mean? Unless it's my son-in-law. I may have to watch that. But
You gotta watch him sometimes.
I know, man. But no, seriously, I mean, there's things I really have to focus on in my life.
Right.
I have to be careful not to judge somebody before I've talked to them. I had one kid one time. Now this really, really changed me. This is when I was pastoring. Well, probably about my 4th or 5th year as a pastor. Mm-hmm. We had just finished a church service, and this kid walks in from outside. I say this kid. He was probably 25, 26, 27 years old. He walked in, and he had black right underneath his nose, and it was just kind of scraped, probably about like a couple inches wide, 3 inches long, something. It just ran over his lips, and I was like, oh, that dude's been working on a car or something. I mean, I have no idea. Because he looked dirty, and someone said, well, there's the pastor right there. You go talk to him. And so he came over to me. Now, I don't want to say I'm head of the Ministerial Alliance, but I'm kind of in charge of the money and handing out and helping people at our church. The Ministerial Alliance is, I don't know if you know or if the listeners know, but it's one of those things where all the churches get together. You collect money from the town, and then you help people in need with that money. I'm in charge of the money and helping people with whatever they need, which my wife does most of it while I'm at work. But we're just kind of in charge of that. And this guy comes in, and I look at him, and I'm like, he needs money. He's going to come to my office, and he's going to ask me for money. And I said, hey, I'm the pastor. Come on, let's just go to my office, because I could tell it just kind of needed to be private. And so we go to my office and we sit down, and I said, well, what can I do for you? And I said, you need help with something, or what do you got going? And he said, no, I just came because I need you to pray for me. Mm-hmm. And as immediately when he said that, I was like, you've already judged him and sized him up. And I felt bad, like the Holy Spirit just totally knocked me down. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Completely convicted me. And so anyway, we sat there, and he said, I need prayer because I've done some wrong things, and I'm fixing to go to prison. He said, and my grandma is super sick, and she's on her deathbed, and I just want to pray for her because I feel like when I'm gone, she's not going to get the attention she needs or the help that she needs.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, and I hate what I've done. And we sat there and we talked, and I was lucky enough to lead him to the Lord that day. We fell on the floor, got on our knees, we held hands, and we was both in tears, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we was just sitting there crying. It was an emotional thing. It was powerful what was going on. And it was, honestly, it was the greatest moment I've had as a minister. I think hands down that was the greatest moment I've had. It was just powerful and it was real. Here was a young man who needed God.
Right.
And I was able to help him. And did you know a month later, that kid fell in the shower, hit his head, and died. And I felt like God had led him to me,
Right.
to lead him to the Lord. And it was crazy, man. I mean, what's powerful about that is God led him to me. There's 7 churches in the town of Maysville. There's 6 other pastors.
Right.
It's not that they weren't capable of doing it, because ultimately we're just doing what we're led by the Holy Spirit. What I did was nothing more than let the Holy Spirit work through me.
Right.
So I don't need to be praised by any of this, but I love how the Lord sent him to me to talk. And so that helped me realize, watch how you judge people. And that's been a big thing for me, because man, most things, come to find out, that black streak on his face, he'd been sniffing paint. He was already kind of messed up, and he was just needing help. And he didn't like his situation. He didn't like where he was. And the only thing he knew to do was to try to turn to God and find a minister to talk to him and to get the help. So, that we just don't need to judge people.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've tried to do. And that moment in my life, it was a really big eye-opener to really pay attention and don't size anybody up. And even if they have done wrong things, don't judge them, man. Because, I mean, who's to say you can't help them? Chances are they hate their situation too.
Right.
That's the way Jesus was with the prostitute. I mean, they hated their situation so much, they were ready to give it to God. And when he was done talking to them, he was just like, all right, now go and sin no more. You're in a good place. I forgave you, but now just go and live better. And, I mean, who are we to think nobody deserves a second chance?
Yeah.
Because if we're judging them, we don't think they're worthy of it. So if we can prove that we're not judging anybody, then that just helps us so much better in life with Christ, and it helps them. So,
I just to touch upon earlier, first and foremost, I'm the first to admit that I am not perfect by any means.
Yeah, no one-
I am
no
my
one is.
worst. I beat myself up all the time.
You're not the first to admit it.
I beat myself up all the time, dude. Devin will see me make a mistake, and I'm like getting in myself. She don't even have to get on to me, dude, because
Yeah.
I'm into myself bad.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? Dude, I'm bad about it. But it also pushes me to make sure I don't make the same mistake twice, So
Well, I mean, you got to go, don't you?
I've got class in probably about 10, 15 minutes, unfortunately. So
All right. Well, then we've got tons more to talk about, so maybe we can have you on sometime again.
Hey, that'd be great.
it was awesome. I think
Yeah.
everybody's going to really enjoy the way you talked about Christ, hear your journey and how that
Yeah.
went, and they're going to think it's cool you're a musician too. So not many preachers are a musician like in the way you are. So I think
Yeah.
that'll be
Yeah, I
really
mean,
cool.
I do Christian music. I got a lot of Christian music that I do, but I still love just good music, you know. And I don't even mind like a little drinking song here and there because it's life. It really
is
is.
life,
It's
yeah.
life.
Can't prevent it.
I don't want to sing anything that's going to encourage anybody to go out and do anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, life is life, and it's just one of those things that that we just all face, and you can't escape it. So there's nothing wrong with singing about a little thing here and there, But so I do that, but I do Christian music as well, and I just I love it. Hopefully next time, I wish I could tell people where to go get some music, but we've just kind of quit doing that.
Yeah.
And we were back in the era where it was just CDs,
Yeah, yeah.
And so we just really haven't went out and pursued putting anything out there. But maybe sometime we'll get something.
Yeah,
So they can
yeah.
get on and check it out. I don't know.
Well, it's been fun. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I
Definitely
enjoy
have
you
to have
guys
you
having
again
me
for
out.
sure.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But
So-
if y'all want to check us out, we're on Instagram and Twitter. The bio for that description I can't even talk. That stuff will be in the description on the Apple Podcast, and will be on YouTube also. So make sure to subscribe and like all the videos. So thanks for coming, and
Yeah, it's been
have
awesome.
a good day.
It's been fun.
All right.